What is the state of the government of Guam based on recent audit reports? Hafide and McDelgado, you're watching The Hub, where America's stories begin. Public Auditor BJ Cruz recently spoke to a group of business leaders about that very topic. Take a listen.
The following is a short excerpt from the official press release. The governor's proposal to raise the business privilege tax cap to $1 million is a positive step. However, we believe that a broader review of the BPT structure is needed to ensure fairness and competitiveness. While there are a number of small businesses that currently earn $500,000 or less annually and can take advantage of the 3% BPT, there are still more businesses that are major contributors to the local economy by providing jobs for our residents. Categorizing our companies in the same group as off-island contractors is a blow to local businesses that have been the backbone of our local economy for years. For too long, our local companies have borne the weight of our government's taxation by tightening spending, foregoing much-needed repairs, facilities maintenance, and overall have been doing more with less. Don't get me wrong, while the Chamber has nothing against small businesses that benefit from the 3% BPT, for too long have the small businesses grossing over $500,000, still considered small business by SBA, that make up a majority of the private sector employment on Guam, have been diligently paying into government services while our schools, public health, public transportation, and public safety have been in a state of decline. Last month, the OPA announced that the government of Guam achieved a general fund surplus of approximately $59.76 million. Meanwhile, some blame the private sector for the decline in tourism, contributed by the lack of investment into our properties. Have you seen any local businesses upgrading their facilities? No, because I haven't. Why? Because we barely have the means to survive and stay afloat. The governor's proposed solution is to float another hotel occupancy tax bond to revitalize tourism. The private sector does not have the available resources to invest because businesses have been struggling since 2020. Now let that sink in. That's been 5 years. I bid the governor to reconsider. Instead of seeking public debt that commits the private sector to pay into the hot bond, a tax break will go a long way in providing the private sector with the capital to improve their product. We need the government's help, not more debt. Okay. Oh wow, that was a pretty heavy topic, I know. Now is the right to the mood. I'd like to call on our very own Madam President, Catherine Castro. I leave her the task of bringing hope back into the world.
Well, in the interest of time, and I really appreciate our public auditor being here. I'm going to not do the announcements that I was planning to do, and I encourage everybody to please read your newsletters. Every Saturday morning, you get it in your e-box, so please read them. But I do want to say something to you all, and it's it's kind of bittersweet because it's a season of change, as many, probably a lot of us have been experiencing. Maybe for some of us, it's been the past 5 years. But at the Chamber, we're having a season of change, and I'm pretty sure you are. If you follow the Chamber, you interact with us. You notice that we lost one of our own. Her name is Jackie, and she left the Chamber at the end of the year. And we obviously miss her, and we wish her well in the things that she's doing. But we're now wanting to just a big farewell to another of our Chamber staff team, and that's Rebecca. And Rebecca has been with us for 7.5 years. For those of you who know her, you saw her grow up with us, and she's ready to spread her wings and fly. So we're just so thankful to have had her and to have the talent that she's given us. And we wish her well, and we wish her love, and everything. Thank you, guys. Now, our guest speaker is is a retired Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Guam and has served as a senator from the 28th to the 31st Guam legislature, where he served as Vice Speaker of the 31st legislature. He earned his BA in Political Science and Economics from Claremont Men's College and received his Juris Doctor from the University of Santa Clara Law School in '75. He has always been involved in civic and community organizations, including Pa'akautano, Sanctuary Inc., Meningan Memorial Foundation, Make-A-Wish Foundation, and many more. He is the second elected public auditor for Guam, serving in this capacity since 2018. Members and guests, please join me in welcoming our guest speaker, Mr. BJ Cruz, the Public Auditor.
I thought I was just here earlier this year. I didn't know, maybe dementia or Alzheimer's. But I'm glad to be back. And when I walked in, I thanked Kathy. I said, I really did not arrange to have banner headlines in both newspapers today. That was not my plan. And I asked her how she knew I was going to make banner headline in both papers today. But I'd like to address a couple of things. On one newspaper, the banner headline was that I thought it was redundant for my office to spend our own resources to get into this bitch fight between the governor's office and the AG's office over hiring. And I tried to explain to the news reporter who sent the message, and he put it in the article, that I thought that doing that was redundant. And the reason I say it's redundant is because one of the things that we do, and some of you members here know quite well about, we oversee the financial audits, all right? And when we oversee the financial audits, we also see the compliance audits that are, reports that are attached to it. And I'll make my spiel that I made to the legislature last week. We spent $625,000 to do this one audit for the government of Guam. Yes. That's how it's gone up. Next year it's going to be $637,000 just for that one audit. You guys have got to read it. Because in it, there's all kinds of things that you really need to know about. And one of them is trying to set priorities. And most of you probably know better than I do about the compliance audits. And the fact that in the compliance audit, it reported that there were 16 material weaknesses. 16. And 11 significant insufficiencies. That should give us, at least it gave my office, reason to think that there are things that are more important than who gets hired. Especially when the compliance audit said that there was question cost of $15 million. And as I read the newspaper today, and one of the newspapers, the lead trending article was the article about the woman who got sentenced last week for the Medicaid fraud. We get $160 million a year for Medicaid. $160 million a year. And there was this one case that was in the paper where a woman who was working at Public Health and Social Services, when people went out of the, either no longer were eligible, she continued to keep them going and was taking the money It was SNAP, I'm sorry. It was a SNAP program by the Department of Agriculture. It's $160 million. She continued to get the SNAP benefits for these people, and over 6 years, she got over $100,000, maybe even more than that. But it was at least $100,000. And my office wants to do that SNAP program because we need to know whether or not we're going to get hit by the federal government at some point in a later date, like we are currently with Guam Homeland Security. Someone's got to look at those kinds of things and set priorities. You can explain to everybody here later after what all that means. But really seriously, it's, you have to just stop and read it. And if you don't read it, then at least read the highlights, because in the highlights, I try to point out these findings. And I try to point out the fact that the health insurance, the self-insurance program needed 38 additional $1 million in 2023. I don't know how many additional millions are needed for the 2024 because that audit has just started. But nobody said anything. It was in my highlights. About the same time Kathy called me or texted me, I was in the Philippines getting a medical checkup. And I released it while I was in the Philippines. And I thought for sure my phone would blow up with emails about, what do you mean that the self-insurance needed an additional $38 million? I didn't get one text from anybody. Not one senator, one business person. I didn't get it from one radio station host who wanted to talk about whatever they want to talk about in the morning. Really seriously, guys, you've got to sit down and take the time to read these things. In the highlights, I was also waiting for my phone to blow up on people calling to find out, what do you mean we lost $10.5 million at Homeland Security? But in the highlights, I pointed out the fact that there is this line in the financial part of the audit that says it's federal programs payable to the government of Guam. It's what happens sometimes is that the government of Guam fronts the money for the program and then asks for reimbursement. And usually that's pretty easy. They can do it in the late night. Some nights somebody stays up and sends in their financial report, and the reimbursement comes in. In 2021, there was $12 million that was owing from the federal government at that time. 21. In 2022, it went up to $21 million. In 2023, it was $23 million. And then, and now the most recent one was $55 million was due and owing. And when my staff went through and looked to see what that was all about, we discovered that Homeland Security hadn't turned in their financial reports for some years back, and as a result, $10 million is not going to be reimbursed at all, ever. It's lost. And so, but that was in the report, but that was in the report. You may not have wanted to read the 400 pages, but in my 6-page highlight, I had the lines. There were these two entries, and the total was $10.6 million of loss that's never going to be reported. There was a oversight hearing in the legislature, and the administration assured us the 12 million that was due and owing from Homeland Security was going to be reimbursed. I didn't find out until later when that was in January. I didn't realize until we got the financial reports and we went through it, we found out we're not getting the 12 million. We've lost 10 million already. And for next year, that number that's due, currently, for the amount due and owing from the federal government, it's gone over $100 million that we fronted so far, and we don't know if we're going to get it back. When I go in, I can give you all these 8 papers, and that should satisfy. But this guessing of, no, today, BJ's not here, Vince is here, so you're going to have to do E and F, but not G and F. That's crazy. You can't run this way. And so, I'm trying, and I apologize for not looking into personnel matters when I think I have bigger fish that I need to fry. And so, any other questions? I have the mic. Oh, you have the mic ready? Go ahead.
Mr. Cruz, I'm totally surprised, frustrated, and angry when you say that SOPs don't exist. 43 years ago, when I joined the Army, I went active duty, and in my first unit, the SOP was probably the most important thing in my company. Because whenever you go from one company to the other, whether it's military police or quartermaster or supply or whatever, that is your handbook to tell you what you need to do. And there are agencies that come in, namely IGs, that come in and inspect you sometimes annually, depending on the unit that you're in, to ensure that you are complying with the regulations as well as your local requirements, which is the SOP. They reference in accordance with AR 15-6 or whatever, right? So active duty, every unit that I went to, SOP, you must follow it. And if you don't follow the SOP, then you could end up getting kicked out of the Army because you failed in your mission. And coming out of active duty and going to the Guam Guard, we had an inspection that I was in charge of locally in terms of 10 experts logistically from the National Guard Bureau coming into the Guam Guard and inspecting us for a week. And it's not just SOPs, it's SOPs and this and that, making sure that we were complying with not just the local requirements, but with the national and Army and everything else. And if we fail that inspection, oh my God, it's gonna create a ripple effect, not just locally, but the National Guard and nationally. And I'm seeing, and I'm so angry because I'm seeing things that are happening today that it's like, how come they didn't know? How come this is happening? How come for 3 years the system that was supposed to be working is no longer working, thereby putting our lives and our island in danger? Seriously. I'm sorry, but I'm not doing this politically. I'm just upset as a Guam resident, someone who lives here and is concerned about what's going on in the Indo-Pacific. And we really need to wake up, and we really need to say something, and we really need to get involved. Because I'm angry, and I have friends who are angry, because this is impacting our daily lives. And it seems like they're just playing games. Seriously, you know, a lot of us are very nervous. A lot of us are stressed because of what's going on. And if we have these yahoos that are supposed to be protecting us, not doing their jobs, then we need to get them out. And we need to put people that will actually do the job. Thank you.
And I want to tell you, you probably trained a really young, good man, Fernando Esteves, came out of the guard. And one of the first things that he introduced in the legislature was SOPs. That was his first bill. And so it's 8 years since we passed that, and we still haven't seen that. We've done compliance audits trying to figure out, and there's still a department, and we're still finding, you know, sometimes a department may need like 8 SOPs for the different functions that they have. But unless you have a strategic plan to know where you're going, you're not going to know what the 8 things that you need to do and what the 8 SOPs that you need to establish to get there. And that's how we're pointing out these audits. So,
sorry, Kim, before you leave, just to answer your question, I'll confess, I'm the one that had asked the public auditor to undertake the performance and operational audit of Shippo, the State Historic Preservation Office. Because of the company that I was working for previously, we have been encountering, not just us, but even Jim Bigler will be here alongside me to note to you the nonsense that was imposed upon us as a company. We're hearing similarly stories from island residents who are just simply trying to get their house built. But Shippo was, we were starting to ask questions like, well, what is the basis of that? What are the rules, the regulations, the policies, and the procedures concerning it? We had our attorney do the research. Our attorney came back with vast comprehensive research indicating that when Shippo was created, the office that oversees it, and as the auditor had noted in his answer, they never promulgated for 20, 30 years to this day the rules, the SOPs that are required for them. So they filled that void and just created stuff along the way and said, you're gonna have to put this in, you're gonna have to spend this much amount of money. And then we're looking at it and said, no, it's not gonna happen that way.
Thanks for watching this episode of The Hub, where America's stories begin. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.